But those are the things that I like. I want to know what makes people interact and why. What is the pull and tug that makes our emotion so strong or pulls our emotion away? Right. Those are the things I try and really work on when I'm working on a scene as you talk. I'll know it's good because there's a lot of people, when they read a novel, they hear their voice reading it to them.
Right.
And if it sounds right and it has a lyrical sense and there's a bit of poetry in it, then I know I have it. Yeah. If it doesn't have those, I know I've got work to do.
Lyrical, see, that's a good word to describe this, because it's just this wonderful flow to it. It's wonderful,
well, thank you. You're very
tapestry that you've woven together here. Do you refer to this book, do you consider it a historical romance? The Vietnam War, the descriptions of it, the setting there, it's very vivid, very well described. Because of that setting, does that count for historical romance?
Well, I don't know if it does, to be honest. I call it more a literary romance. I don't know if there is such a topic.
Yeah.
I don't think there is. I know there's literary fiction and romantic fiction or romance, but I call it literary fiction because the reader will find that there's quite a bit of references to the classics and quotes by famous authors in here, and you know, there's one scene where I talk about Quixote's Dulcinea, and there's another scene where you know, I quote William Butler Yeats and other things like that. So I would say
literature will fill.
Yeah, I would say literary romance. Let's create a new topic here.
Good.
But if you like romance, it's there. If you like literary fiction, it's there. If you like adventure,
it's there as well.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's interesting because in referencing the Vietnam War, your descriptions are so strong. The impact it has on one of the characters. That war, and the way you describe it, is almost a character in and of itself.
Oh, yeah.
Because it plays a crucial role
in
defining one of the characters.
And I grew up in a small community in Lackawanna, New York, of about a kind of a sequestered community, steel mills on three sides and a creek on the other, and a main highway out front. And there were maybe 300 or 400 houses in that one little sequestered community, and you know, we lost about 4 or 5 men in the Vietnam War from that community. A good friend of mine, still listed as missing in action, Bob DiTomaso, to whom the book is dedicated. Joel Brown, another friend of mine, rolled on a grenade, Vicki, to save his buddies in Tra Ninh province. So. Another friend of mine was severely shot up. One man who just recently passed away lost his left arm. I fortunately was never in Vietnam, but I used to work with the Air Force Security Service, and we'd monitor communications. That's about all I can say because it was top secret work. But I became very familiar with the interplay of what men did in combat. And I just wanted to pay tribute to that. Of course, my friend in San Antonio, who's read the book, and he said it was quite emotional for him, too.
I'm sure it was.
But I garnered a lot from his experiences, and to this day, he's just ripped apart with shrapnel and, you know, and scars and things like that. He's a great man, great hero.
You know, I think this book, romance, people always think female audience. But these characters, this story, this has broad appeal.
I hope.
Yes, I think because of the characters, because of what you describe in the war, I think it just has some very strong appeal. The men will enjoy this as well.
I think they will. I've always been a big fan of Hemingway. I'm a big fan of James Lee Burke. I think James Lee Burke is the best writer going today, and it'd be hard-pressed to find anyone better. I like stories. I like the kind of characters those men create. Believe it or not, I like the kind of characters that Agatha Christie created, too.
Oh, believable, yes.
And I've read most of hers, and I always would wonder, how could she come up with that? You know, how did she think and create those mysteries
and
and then
you
solve
have
them.
people asking you those
Yeah,
questions now.
yeah. But so what I tried to do in this book is what do they say? Imitation is the best form of flattery.
Right.
I just tried to capture some of the nuances of the great writers that I mentioned, and others. Raymond Chandler, who wrote all of Philip Marlowe, but a very gutsy dialogue. Robert B. Parker, most of his books were dialogue.
Yeah.
So that's why I think the dialogue is strong in this, is because of those influences.
Yeah. It's funny that you should mention that word, because while it is a very tender story as well, but it's gutsy too. So that
gutsy,
applies.
yeah,
it applies to this as well.
Yeah, the torture scenes in The Prisoner of War.
I winced when I read them.
Oh yeah, and those are true. And I'm not taking sides in the conflict. In fact, I think at the end, one of the characters says we were all duped in that war. But this is that's not what this book is about.
No, it's not. But I think in that respect, you probably turned your journalistic eye to that when you wrote about it.
You can't ignore that.
Exactly. Do you have any other works in the making right now that you can share?
Actually, I've got two that are on the books and ready to go. One is called Spencer Mouse's First Great Adventure, which is a children's book, which implies there will be a second and a third great adventure.
Something you've always wanted to do?
Yeah, well, I when I was a young man, when our children were born, I would always tell them stories, and some of these stories are from that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I want to create that. I also like to write humor. When I was a young man, I wanted to be a gag writer in Hollywood, and I never did it.
Oh, what a great gig that would have been.
I know. And so I said, well, now that I have all the time, I'm going to do it. So I wrote a book that I call The Match, which will be out probably later this year. And it's Lake Woebegone meets Tin Cup.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
So it's that. And then I'm working on a very serious book, another serious adult book called Hannah's Diary. Oh. Which will, again, this book, That Tender Light, has a lot of flashbacks.
Right.
Hannah's Diary will be in that vein also. But it's a story that begins in Poland in World War II and ends in present-day northern Kentucky.
Oh, wonderful. Is it hard to let the characters go when you finish that last edit on a book?
Yeah, because they become like your buds. They're your friends, you know. Right. I talk about them as though they're real. And I know they're not, but yeah, it's tough.
Now, there are local settings here in the greater Cincinnati area.
Starts off at the airport.
Yes, exactly. Indiana, as you mentioned. What kind of
Madison, for example. Yeah.
You're going to these towns, and they're calling for you to come and talk about the
I
settings
have a
there?
radio interview tomorrow in Batesville, Indiana, which is one of the very key scenes in this book, when Jack Taylor decides to leave what he's doing and forget everything and go see Lily. That meeting occurs in Batesville. She has a home or farm in St. Omer, Indiana, which is between Greensburg and Shelbyville. Right. They go down to Madison and have scenes in Madison. Of course, there's scenes in New York and London and Laos and other places too.
Did you have any input from local authors? I know this area seems to be growing, just in terms of authors. Yeah, or any support?
Jack Curley, who writes mysteries locally, has been very supportive in the past. Rick Robinson has helped me, give me ideas and thoughts. Believe it or not, I'm on Facebook with Lincoln Child, who writes the Pendergast novels with Preston, and he's talked to me. And I was talking yesterday to an author in Malaysia, but don't ask me to pronounce her name. But she has looked at my book and wished me best luck.
Do you find that it's a supportive and close-knit community?
I'm finding that. I didn't know that. I have all that to learn.
Yes, much to learn. But it sounds like you've dove in head first. You're already you've hit the ground running. Yeah. When you decided, okay, now I have the time to pursue this. Yeah. This is beyond a full-time job. This isn't retirement.
Well, but it's fun. See, that's the difference. Anytime you're doing something that's fun, it's not work.
Does it feel like a calling, which you always were supposed to do? Tell stories.
Well, I always thought I could turn a phrase. So what I didn't know is I could turn a phrase for 112,000 words.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what I didn't know. It's very easy to write a paragraph.
Right, but that was a nice surprise to you, wasn't it, I'm sure?
Yeah, sure.
Well, tell viewers where they can find this book. I'm sure there's a website.
There's a website. It's www.djamesthen.com. It's available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNobles.com, BooksAMillion.com, WHSmith.com, Powell.com, Book Locker, who's my publisher, BookLocker.com. Number 3 on the bestseller list for Book Locker.
That's terrific.
So those places. And then they can go into any bookstore in America and ask by title and author name and ISBN number, which is listed on my website. Okay.
All right, Don, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Vicki.
Don Then, the book is That Tender Light. Make sure and check it out. I'm Vicki Prichard. You've been watching Community Report. Thanks so much for watching, and please join us again next week.